So much to get into on today's show, but first I want to start with a trivia question, and later on today's show, I'm going to reveal the answer. Who holds the single-season rushing record for the New Orleans Saints? So many good backs in this franchise's history. Stick around to find the answer to that question, and also right now, get your predictions in. Welcome into Saints Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Senior. We're diving into the latest New Orleans Saints news and rumors on today's show. Hope all of you have had a fantastic weekend. We start off with DK Metcalf. There continues to be trade rumors around the Seattle Seahawks embattled wide receiver, who is one of one, really special player, reminds me of a modern-day Terrell Owens, and is absolutely fantastic. His level of production since he came into the league out of Ole Miss has been fantastic, but his future uncertain because who's going to be the future Seahawks quarterback, and DK Metcalf is due for a contract extension, and it's only a matter of time before he becomes one of the highest paid wide receivers in the NFL. The big question, could it be the Seahawks, could it be the Saints, or another team across the NFL? So Bleacher Report wrote an article on 5 trades that teams should do before the NFL draft. Bleacher Report saying the New Orleans Saints, let's team up DK Metcalf potentially with Michael Thomas, give Jameis Winston a plethora of weapons, and we know that New Orleans is in need of wide receiver help badly. As for that trade idea from Bleacher Report, here you go. Saints would receive DK Metcalf. The Seahawks would get a 2022 first-round pick, this year's selection, 19th overall, 2022 fourth-round pick, which is 120 overall, a premium asset and pick to build out your roster, and then another second-round pick, another valuable asset at your disposal. DK's stats by year. Said a moment ago, he's one of the best wide receivers in the National Football League. He's been for a little while. He's physically imposing. He can run any route on the route tree. He can go up and get it as a contested catch wide receiver, but also he's a game breaker with his speed and physicality. You take a look at the numbers year by year, 900 yards in 2019, followed by 1,300 plus yards in 2020, and this past year, even with Russell Wilson missing a couple of games, 75 grabs, 967 yards, and 12 touchdowns. Now, I'm not really worried about the salary cap for New Orleans. I know the salary cap nerds are going to get in the comment section and say, there's no chance that New Orleans can make a play for DK Metcalf. You give up draft picks, which we just saw New Orleans make a draft trade with Philadelphia. You can find a way to make this happen, and we know that the salary cap is a myth. It's fake, and we also know that Mickey Loomis, an absolute wizard. So let's pop back to this trade idea, and I want to ask you this question. Would you do this trade if you're New Orleans and if you're Mickey Loomis? Type T for trade, P for pass. You give up a couple of picks, but you get one of the best wide receivers in the National Football League in DK Metcalf. Let me know in the comment section down below. We continue to move forward on today's show and unpack what Bleacher Report said about DK Metcalf. New Orleans, after acquiring a second first-round pick from the Eagles, is a perfect landing spot for Metcalf. The Saints need another proven pass catcher to pair with Michael Thomas, given the uncertainty his injuries over the past 2 years have created. Now, you look at the surrounding cast for Michael Thomas right now. Like, if you put DK Metcalf in this wide receiver room, they'd immediately become one of the best wide receiving cores in the NFL. I like Tre'Quan Smith. I like Marquez Callaway. Like, those are good complementary wide receivers. They're just not really consistent number 2 and number 3 option. And if you bring in DK Metcalf with Michael Thomas, you have your 1A, your 1B, and then that just allows Tre'Quan Smith and Marquez Callaway to really filter and factor in very nicely as secondary, third, and fourth options for New Orleans. And for Jameis Winston, I'm a believer in the quarterback because we've seen him display his potential at points in his NFL career. The year that he threw for 30 interceptions, he also threw for 30 touchdowns and 5,000 yards. He has ability, and last year he got off to a really good start as the starting quarterback for New Orleans, and once again, the Saints were winning games, and he had this level of production, and he looked pretty good. Like, I'm not saying that Jameis Winston is going to be a top 10 quarterback. No chance. Can he be middle tier? And with a good surrounding roster, can New Orleans win a lot of football games with Jameis Winston as the starter if he plays more carefree football? I think the answer to that question is yes. Now, make sure you subscribe to New Orleans Saints Now by Chat Sports, because this is your one-stop shop for all things Saints news and rumors, interactive Saints content, year-round videos, multiple videos per week, and the more subscribers we get, the more videos we're able to publish. Trace Gerard, producer, has been doing an awesome job growing this channel, and he's a part of Who Dat Nation because he's the biggest Saints fan out there. So there you go, 100% free content. Type gold if you are subscribed. Just hit that red subscribe button down below. Let's get to 5,000 subs. To the NFL draft and the implications that could surround the New Orleans Saints. Next on today's show, should the Saints draft Jameson Williams? Really good wide receiver from Alabama, coming off that torn ACL, is a unique and really, really special talent. And if you don't make a trade for DK Metcalf with those rumors surrounding this football team, do you elect to go after a young wide receiver who you're not going to have to pay as much money to as compared to DK Metcalf, at least over the next couple of years? ESPN listing Jameson Williams as the best fit for the Saints. He'd be a top 10 pick, no question about it, if he did not tear his ACL. He's a burner. He's a speed demon. He's a fantastic wide receiver. If you don't go after Jameson Williams, there are other options in a talent-rich, laden wide receiver draft in Chris Olave, Treylon Burks, as well as Drake London. Would they fit better? I don't know. Jameson Williams is a fantastic player. Matt Bowen on the Saints drafting him potentially. Williams is explosive and sudden on tape with tremendous vertical speed. He had an FBS best 9 receptions of 50-plus yards last year, averaging nearly 20 yards per catch. You want production after the catch? Hey, he's the guy who can really do it for you. Catch and go, crossers, slants, unders. Jameson Williams can run any route on the route tree, and there are much more refined route running traits than you think in Williams' game, as he played in a pro system at Alabama. With the Saints, I like the fit with the aggressive mindset of quarterback Jameis Winston. Let's get Williams down the field on play action or on some of those go balls. Let him eat up the cushion against the defensive backs to run deep routes and curls. Williams, who might have been a top 10 lock if he didn't tear his ACL in the national title game in January, is my favorite wide receiver prospect in this class. He'd be a great complement to the skills of Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara in New Orleans, which now has another first-round pick. So Matt Bowen really saying things that I had said when we talked about these Jameson Williams potential draft implications. This is a really good wide receiver who, if you don't go after DK Metcalf and trade for him, he'd be a really good option. And again, with a team that is tight on the salary cap and tight on dollars, Jameson Williams could factor in very, very nicely. Now, you take a look at some of the other wide receiver targets in addition to him. This wide receiver class is fantastic, and I think we're seeing a trend here in the NFL where, you can trade away a Devontae Adams. You can trade away a Tyreek Hill. Why is that? Because there's so many talented wide receivers in the NFL draft who you can plug and play from day one in rounds 1, 2, or 3, and you're paying a fraction of the price to those young wide receivers as compared to some of the aforementioned explosive and expensive wide receivers. Chris Olave, Treylon Burks, Jahan Dotson is a really good player. Had an opportunity to watch him up close and personal at Beaver Stadium a couple of times when I covered Penn State football. Garrett Wilson is great. Sky Moore is good as well. There are a bunch of wide receivers who you can get, not just in the first round, folks, second and third rounds as well, in which these players can be immediate impact guys. So pick a wide receiver. You go in DK Metcalf, you go in Jameson Williams, you go in other, get those votes in and let me know. Also, the answer to the trivia question is here, much anticipated. We ask you the question, who holds the single season rushing record for the New Orleans Saints? George Rogers in 1981, not a guy like Deuce McAllister or Alvin Kamara or Mark Ingram. So many great running backs in the history of this franchise. It's George Rogers. The answer to that trivia question. Appreciate all of you for sticking around. My take on the situation for New Orleans in terms of wide receiver. Can't leave the draft without a solid one. You have to find a way in the first few rounds with that extra draft pick to land a really impact wide receiver. We're also seeing this trend in the NFL. The more explosive wide receivers you have, they're game breakers, they're game changers. They can change the complexion of a football game. You need those on your football team, especially if you don't have a bona fide top 5, top 10 quarterback. You surround a guy like Ryan Tannehill, his game changes. You surround a guy like Jameis Winston, his game changes. Now, at least use the picks in a trade. That's another thought out there and another thought from me. You have these draft picks at your disposal. You can use them in a trade for a guy like DK Metcalf, or if you want to settle and you want to go toward that secondary route, then you draft one of these aforementioned wide receivers. Who do you want the Saints to draft in the first round of the 2022 NFL Draft? Let us know. Drop a name or names given the talent pool at that wide receiver position. Appreciate all of you for rocking and rolling with us on today's show. Don't forget to subscribe.